Welcome to the Entail AI podcast. Discussions with marketing executives sharing their latest techniques for growing their businesses online.
Hello, everybody. We're back with Intel Podcast, speaking to marketing leaders from SaaS and e-commerce companies. And I have the pleasure of having Armando Diana today with me, a marketing leader in the cybersecurity space. So hi, Armando. Very nice to have you on board.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Great. So we're planning to speak today about marketing in the cybersecurity space. And I've written down a few talking points. But I mean, before we dive into this, and for me personally, I'd like to hear maybe a little bit from your experience about how it is to do marketing in such a specific, in a domain where the topics are so specific. I mean, from my experience, we've been working with cybersecurity companies. I can tell you, so just to understand what I mean, so I spoke to this cybersecurity company, and we're talking about their content. And one of the marketing manager over there said, I'm quoting, he said, nobody can create content besides our developers or our tech team. Okay. So my point is it gets so specific and it becomes so bureaucratic. So really my personal question for me is how do you reconcile it? How are you able to move fast? How are you able to create marketing when things are so specific?
It's interesting because I would tell you that that person was more of a technologist and not a marketing person, because they're right. If the product managers, the developers, the technical marketing managers all have to look at the content we create, because it is very specific, but not so much specific as you need to be very accurate. Yeah. So when you're talking, the solution itself, and you're talking the product itself, then you got to be very, very accurate. When you're talking about the solution, then you could be a little bit more marketing, I guess, as far as explaining what the value is to the customer. So what I typically do is focus mostly on the value we give to the customers and what the solution does. And if the customer should ask, hey, what's the throughput on that firewall? What is the SSL on that VMware, product? Then I was like, okay, we can get you that answer and turn it over to the SC or the technical marketing manager. Mm-hmm. Only because if you're talking to a buyer, they are more concerned about the solution. When you're talking to the users, they care about the bits and the bytes.
Okay, and so you're right. The right word is accurate more than specific, because it has to be very accurate. I often say, like in yes. companies selling to developers or cybersecurity, which is a similar space, you get one comma wrong, and then the entire thing is like. So it's basically about the messaging and the accuracy of the messaging. And so how do you solve that? Do you have developers as part of your marketing team, or do you consult a lot with the dev team? What's your technique for this?
It's extremely collaborative. I don't do anything without the product manager seeing it, the sales engineer seeing it, the salesperson seeing it, and all the technical people and the developers. So once I write a particular piece of content, once I create something, I send it first to the product manager and say, okay, is this accurate? Have I portrayed it? And then we go back and forth, as you always do. And then we go down to the developers and let them look at it. And by the time it gets down to the sales engineers, by that point, it has gone through 3 different hands, and it is, for the most part, technically accurate. But you really got to be collaborative, and you got to include everybody. I can't do this in a vacuum. Now, on the flip side, if we're at trade shows and I hear them at the booth saying something that is so technical and I can see the person listening, their eyes glazing over, I'll say, how about we say it this way? How about we answer the question like this? So it's a give and take between everybody.
Yeah.
But the main thing is collaboration.
Yeah. A guy that used to work with me, and he had a lot of experience working with cybersecurity companies. And he often said, because my company Intel, we're in the content space, and we're helping companies streamline their content processes and all that. And he often said, like, forget about cybersecurity. Every piece of content you want to publish is going to go through like 1 million people there. It's like you can't get anything published. So it's actually very interesting to get insights from what's happening within those companies, because according to what you say, the content needs to go through quite a few stakeholders to be refined, to be improved, to make sure it's accurate before it's even approved to be published. So basically, every content piece, it goes through what, about five people before?
Yeah, about 5, 6 people. Because then, of course, the boss has to look at it and give the approval. But it's about 5 people that look at it. But again, it depends on what the objective of the content piece is. So if the content piece objective is to educate and it's meant for the user, that is one path to take, because it depends on what you're trying to convey. If the content piece is to entice or grab someone's attention, mostly the buyer, in this case, the CIO, that's very different. Because when you're writing or creating content, as you know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but when you're writing content, the buyer and the audience matters. So in most content pieces that we create, it's for the users. But the fun stuff that we create, the real marketing stuff that we create, is for the buyer. And that basically only goes through the product manager, myself, and my boss.
So the buyer isn't necessarily like a very technical person. They're more like a business leader.
No. Well, again, it really depends. If you're talking in the SMB space, then the buyer can be the technical user also. And in that case, it's a combination. If you're talking enterprise, large organizations, data centers, the buyer 9 times out of 10 is not at all technical. They are a business person. CIOs, the job of the CIO has morphed over the past 5 to 15 years in that type space, where they went from the person who was concerned about keeping the lights on, making things run, making sure the network is great, to a business partner, helping the sales team, helping the business drive revenue. And now CIOs are mostly business people that have a much more macro view of what the solution is. So when you're talking to a CIO and you're talking, hey, this is 4 times faster than our competitor, and because we have an ASIC chip and they have a general CPU, which is true, they're not going to care. They're going to worry about, okay, but what does that mean? Well, that means you can process the traffic faster and you can mitigate issues faster versus our competitor or whoever you're talking against that can't do it.
Okay, and do you experience the same difficulties also when it comes to paid marketing? I mean, making sure the messaging is correct, or it's just in articles or web pages?
No, it's everything. Paid media, social media, anything. Because again, we go down to the buyer and the audience. Anything I write, anything I create, the first thing I tell the people I'm sharing it with is the audience is, okay, the general user. And so paid media, social media, you're going after a generalist that is looking at the cybersecurity. Either their boss told them they wanted to see something, and they are experiencing certain pain points. And you got to hit that pain point that will make them continue to read and click on it so they can go to your site. But if if I am creating paid content for, I don't know, one of those sites that specifically target CIOs, totally different message. It's now about what the solution can do for their bottom line, what they can do for them. And this is an old, and stop me if I go too long, but this is an old, this is an old adage I always, when I'm training salespeople, and I used to come from networks. So I was in the network space. And this is about 10 years ago. And I would tell salespeople, hey, what's the business of an airport? And they'll tell me transporting people. I say, yeah, okay. Then I'd say, what's the business of an airport to a CIO? And again, I'm in New Jersey, so there's always a wise guy that says transporting people faster. And I'm like, yes, but no. A airport is a big mall. And CIOs at the time were compensated on dollars per square foot because their retail space they didn't want people transporting that fast. They wanted them in the airport buying stuff in their retail space. So if you talk to a CIO about, hey, we can transport your people faster, they'll smile and say thank you. But if you go there and say, we can help you transact money faster so you make your bonus, they pay attention.
Yeah.
So it's understanding the true business of your target audience and playing to that either pain point or that compensation point, because that is what they are mostly focused on. So when you're talking down to a user, they're using it every day. They do care about how easy it is to centralized management. They're concerned about, is this going to be hard for me to learn? So you want to talk about those aspects of your product. But when you go upscale and you go up to the buyer, they're like, okay, what gives me the best value for the dollar, and what makes me protected? And in cybersecurity, a lot of times, it's a lot of education in our content, because it's a very misunderstood field. Everyone thinks they are safe, and they know better, and they're not going to click that. You're not going to fool me in a phishing scheme. Until you get fooled, especially with AI nowadays, until you get fooled on the phishing scheme. And the thing I always tell people is, like, if if your sink is leaking and you tell your significant other, oh, it'd take me an hour, I can fix that. It's just, taking a few pipes. And 6 hours later, there's a number of curse words and scared animals and pets, whatnot. You call the plumber, because the plumber knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's educating them that, yes, you understand cybersecurity, but we understand it better. And we know how to do it faster and more efficiently than you can.
Okay. I mean, like I said, this is very interesting for me because, I mean, also in our space, I mean, it's marketing, it's content and SEO. And I often tell people that SEO is similar. Maybe it's also similar to cybersecurity, but I often say it's similar to accounting. When you ask a question and after you get the answer, you're more confused than before. That, at least my personal experience with accounting. Okay.
You nailed it. I love that. That's perfect for SEO.
So, and often, I mean, we speak to companies, and in general, I can tell you that, and I've seen, I don't know how many search consoles, and like the back end of the search results of websites. The webs, and especially in B2B, the websites that manage to actually generate organic traffic besides brands are probably less than 5%, like significant traffic, probably less than 5%. And the websites that manage to convert or to even measure conversion performance of their content, these are, I mean, the only ones that actually do that are affiliate websites. Brand websites don't really do that. I mean, so I often ask myself, like, so why do they do content? Is it because they need to? But what I think is, I mean, going back to like the confusion around SEO and so on, and like what you mentioned as well, that education is a really important part of the sales cycle because the topics are complicated, because people often think they know and they don't. So my question is, so if education is such an important part of the sales cycle or the marketing or your marketing activities, how do you position your content? Is it like you start with top of the funnel content to get awareness, to get people interested in what you have to say, and you drive them slowly? So what's your strategy around that?
This is actually a very relevant question, because I just had this conversation yesterday with our web team, and I'm doing non-branded terms to drive visitors to the website because we're trying to increase our visitors. And my question to them was, who are you trying to attract? Because the content they wanted from me was so basic. This is a firewall. This is secure networking. This is this is SASE. This is EDR, which is, I go, but if you're trying to attract again a user, perfect. Do that, because you're going to drive people top of the funnel. They're going to look at your content. They're going to see, okay, your cybersecurity solution is what I'm looking for, is what my boss is looking for. Let's get a demo. And that's what you're really trying to do. Mm-hmm. But if you're trying to attract buyers, that's the wrong way of going, because they already know what cybersecurity is. So they're looking for value. So as in SEO, in my mind, I use SEO to drive top of funnel, to get people onto our site so they can consume other pieces of content that take them down that journey from top of the funnel to mid funnel to lower funnel till we finally get them out. But the first thing is getting their attention to educate them, because now no one wants to admit to their boss, I don't understand what you talk. I don't understand what you want.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. Hey, Armando, go get me a cybersecurity solution. Okay. What do you want? So you immediately go on your search engine and you cybersecurity solution, and that drives you to a particular page. And if you like the way that the page looks, feels, if the content is easy to consume, now you've got that feeling that, okay, this is a cool company because one, they taught you, so you can sound smart to your boss, and two, you can understand what they're saying. If you get to a page that the content's not really what you want, it's not giving you what you're looking for, you'll go to another page and you continue to do that until you find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So for the long-winded way of saying top of the funnel.
Yeah. And so the content activities and efforts that you're doing, how much of them are focused on your website, and how much like what's the percentage? Like if you allocate some to, I don't know, social media, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, website, maybe paid channels. So how do you distribute that?
Our content strategy is 4 short form articles, blogs a month, 1 white paper a quarter on a various topic. So something about topic AI, cyber criminals using AI and how they're wielding it to fool people into clicking things, because it's really AI can really fool you, and why you need AI in the back end to meet up with that sophistication. And then we use those short form articles in our social media and our paid media. Okay, we'll do a snippet, maybe a 5-second, 10-second video of someone saying, the cyber criminal fooled the CEO to, send $250,000, find out how. So something and then you're driving them there. But most of our social media approach is a 60-30-10 approach. 60% of the time, I am talking about something that has nothing at all to do with my company, but everything to do with the space. 30% of the time, I'm talking about, okay, I'm driving them back to our web pages, to content we've written, to those 4 short form articles, blogs, solution briefs, or white paper. And usually the white paper is what we use mostly to drive people to. And then 10% of the time, hey, we're great, come see us at this event, come see us there. So 60% of the time, I'm looking for articles, in my space that, not my competitors, but in my space that educate. And then 30% of the time, I'm driving them to the content that we created.
Okay, that's interesting. And what do you think about? Because I often think about that, like creating content that educates, and then, like you say, like you just said, like pushing people from top to mid to bottom of the funnel. But I can speak for myself. I see that if I do a search and I go and read an article, and I mean, very often I don't even notice what website I'm on. Okay. So it doesn't necessarily create brand awareness. And it's not that often that I continue from that article to the next one. So what do you think is the impact of that, of that content,
Well, if you're not moving the reader forward, then you got to reevaluate the content. You're not going to get everyone moving forward, but you pick a goal number. Say 20% of the time you want people to move forward, and if you're not getting that, then you have to reevaluate the content, because something in the content is not satisfying their need for education, their need to learn something about your company, the need for something is not being satisfied. And if you're not satisfying that need, then I don't want to say something's wrong with the content, because everything is different, but it's not fulfilling its objective. So, and what we normally do is before I write anything, the first thing I'm aware of is, what's the objective of the piece? What am I trying to get it to do, from an SEO comparison, from a click through, whatever those objectives are, and then who the audience is, and then we compile the content that way.
And do you create the content yourself, or do you have a team or writers?
I'm a freelance writer also, so I am able to write my own content. I'm not silly enough to think that I don't need an editor, so I'll write it and then hand it over to my team of writers. Sometimes it depends on what I'm doing. I'll outline, hey, I want to do an article on this, and I'll outline what I'm looking for, and I'll hand it over to writers. But I would say 80% of the time, I write my own content.
And so, and you work with a team of writers that also create content for your blog or social
Yeah,
media.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. And those writers are technical writers. Do they have like, so? Because again, back to the difficulty in that space.
Right,
Not
yeah.
everyone can. I mean, I wouldn't be able to, So
I prefer non-technical writers because they write more toward the audience, but we have a mix. We have a combination of the two. We have technical writers and we have I won't say regular writers, but that's not really true. But we have technical writers and non-technical writers. So the technical writers first do it. So if I were to I write the outline, I give it to the technical writer first because I know it's going to come back very tech heavy. And then once I see what they've done, I make a couple of edits. I send it to my non-technical writer and basically say, okay, we need 600 words, and this is 900. Cut it to 600. Make it more with more of a business impact voice than it is right now. Or this is perfect. Leave it the way it is, but just simplify the words so we're not getting too jargony with people.
Yeah, that's an interesting process. I mean, what you often see is that, I mean, first of all, it's, from what I can hear, like you're creating very high quality of content just by judging by the number of people that are involved in that. And often you see, even on the best content websites, I mean, check out Forbes, for example, you see like serious articles often have multiple people contributing to them. Like you have multiple people creating them, doing the research, etc., and then editing them. So that's probably like you're following best practices and that way. Okay.
Try to, but again, it depends. It depends on the company and the budget, and the people you have. So yeah, I've been lucky where I've had a combination of creative people and technical people, so we can work together. Like for example, I can write content. I can't do graphics for anything, and I've got this one person who she's fabulous with graphics. So I say, hey, I want an image like this, and then she creates it to go with the article. But if I were to create it, not going to happen.
Yeah, and what do you think are the most effective channels and for a company selling like upmarket B2B technical product? I mean, is it really like the content and organic, or is it more like paid channels?
That's a toughie. I would say kind of combination of both. The paid channels go more toward the buyers because they are on, again, taking the CIO. When you're looking at the CIO persona, the majority of CIOs today are 55 to 65-year-old white males. The fastest growing segment are 42 to 52-year-old females. And right behind them in about 6-7 years, you're going to have millennials that'll be predominantly in the CIO space. Now, all three groups consume information differently and look for different information. So the first one, the white male, they don't want fluff. They give me what you got. What's the bottom line? Females want a storyline. They want to know how it helps other people in addition to themselves. And millennials want videos. So it depends on the target audience. The paid media is probably the higher end places, so maybe like CIO Network, Forbes, Time Magazine, those sites where CIOs would be visiting. And for the most part, CIOs here in the States anyway, prefer news channels, sports channels. So you put your content there. Organic is again a little lower level. That's more top of the funnel approach, at least in the way we approach it. I mean, I'm not saying that's the right way. The way we approach it, the organic channels are a little bit more top of the funnel approach. So I'm looking for a much general place to be putting that content.
So you mentioned it was a very interesting breakdown, like the personas, the ages, and where they consume content. And then you mentioned, the younger generations, the millennials, they want mostly video content. And I think it's becoming even more and more true, even for like older people. I mean, my parents, I also get them like sending me videos from here and there, so, and they're 70. Um, so how do you approach that? I mean, I do think that video content is very difficult now for companies because, I mean, when it comes to paid, you're competing with other brands. When it comes to SEO and in the B2B space, you're also mostly competing with other brands. But when it comes to videos, and especially organic, you're competing with individuals. You're competing mostly with creators. That's the content that people watch. And then if you want to compete with individuals and you want to create authentic content, expertise, unique perspectives, and so on, then it's very difficult for companies. I mean, the challenge is that if you want to work with influencers, it's very expensive. It's just like paid channels. If you bring in presenters, then it's not authentic. They don't have the expertise. It's basically very, very flat and shallow. And if you want to have like real expertise and perspectives and so on, you need business leaders who are very busy. And so you can't have like positive ROI on that. So I'm just wondering if you're doing video, and if so, what techniques are you using?
We're using video right now. We're doing a lot of motion graphics video, so it's a little less expensive to create. And I normally do a 2-minute motion graphic video that can be chopped up in 5, 10, 15-second intervals, so we can use them in our social media. But for the most part, to your point, influencer marketing is really where it's at right now when it comes to the younger generation. YouTube channels, Hulu channels, any of those mediums. If you can't get an influencer, but you can advertise on their channel, that helps. So if we run ads on YouTube channels with a link back to our page or a link back to our video, that tends to work. But the ROI is hard to capture. It's really difficult at this point. I'm sure as time goes on, we will figure out how to do it. That's how marketing works. You eventually figure it out. But you're right. I mean, video is working with everybody now. I made the comment about the younger generation, but it has gone up generation because it's so much easier.
Yeah.
And again, it depends on people. Like, I prefer to read versus watching a video. But if I am, in the middle of, I'm pressed for time, I'll watch a quick video on something. But for us, another good medium is what we're doing here, a podcast.
Yeah.
That tends because, you have an audience, you have a specific audience that hopefully I'll resonate with, and that leads to something else. People who are coming to watch because I'm on it, see you, hey, he's cool, I like him, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you got more subscribers. So it's all hand in hand.
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting also, like on YouTube and so on. I think if Google had a better solution to monetize videos, because YouTube is more challenging than Google search, right? So if they had a better solution to monetize videos, we would see much more videos in the search results. I think they're going to show. I think the SERP, the search result, the search engine results page, Google basically is going to become much more similar to social media in a way. With some searches, with some type of queries, you can already see it. Like, for example, if you search for a celebrity, you get a lot of images for a location, like a city or a touristic place and so on. But I think just with video, you can see that on YouTube, it's much more difficult to monetize, less clicks than what you see in regular search.
And what's really interesting, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What's really interesting here is what's going to affect search results. ChatGPT, Bard, any of those AI engines, because when you go on any of those and you type in, cybersecurity, the results it brings back don't show up in search results in Google or Yahoo or any of those engines. But you can write, show me a video of, a cybersecurity solution, and then it lists all these videos that drive you back to the YouTube channels. So it'd be interesting to see how that, because the monetization of it will become very difficult.
Yeah, I mean,
to figure out.
I often say, because I mean, as a company that deals with content and SEO and organic, we've been obsessed with AI. Even before that, but especially after ChatGPT came out. I mean, before that, I used to say that we're not into generative AI because it's going to be a red ocean, and there were companies like Jasper AI raised a bunch of money. And so we said, copy AI, Jasper AI, any word, they raised a lot of money and it's just too competitive. No reason to play in that space. Then ChatGPT came and basically blew everyone out the water. Um,
Yeah.
but even now, after ChatGPT, I mean, we've been really obsessed with how the market is going to shift. And what we see is that, I mean, the main concern is how Google is going to respond to it, or how is it going to affect Google? Because that's where most of the traffic is. I mean, Google is more than all social media combined. And the interesting thing is, I mean, when you look at Google, when you analyze it, you say, okay, they have their main three priorities. One is they must give you the best search results. If you get better results, I mean, you're not married to Google. You get better results on ChatGPT, you're going to leave them. You're going to leave Google. And then the second thing is, how do they monetize? If they now have search generative experience and they can, and you can get results similar to ChatGPT or even better, can they monetize them? And the third thing, which is super important, is how many clicks do they send to the internet? Because if you're, as a publisher, if you're creating content and you're not getting links, you will stop creating content for your website. You'll create content for your social profiles, because content on your website, in a way, is content for Google. So it's just very interesting to see how this evolves. I do believe that we'll see much more video type results on Google as well, as they manage to understand how to monetize them as well. But it's very, very interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, there may be...
Well, I mean, anecdotally, I can tell you, our videos on our website has more views than our written content. So people have been going to those videos more often, and we even created our own YouTube channel. And it was product demos and it's solution demos that have a lot more viewership and downloads than our content was. And it's been slowly morphing over the years, but it's getting to a point now where I suspect videos will outpace content, and it's just a matter of, to your point again, how do you monetize it, and how do you keep an eye on it to make sure it's not getting out of hand?
Yeah. So there's a few interesting aspects to it. I mean, one is, I saw this, I forgot the name of the conference. It was a Google conference about paid. And they showed stats about video consumption, and they show a huge increase in video consumption, but any type of video, short, long. It's not like, because you say like shorts, better ROI, maybe more views, but they say no, people want to watch videos on their TVs at home. They want to watch it on their laptops, on their phone. They just want videos everywhere of any kind, basically. So and they want more and more of that.
It's quick and it's easy, and it if it's done right, it delivers the message quicker and more succinctly than something that you send that you have to read.
But then the question is, so I mean, you've established that video is important, and you say, okay, even just you have proof. I mean, your videos are performing better than the written content in terms of views. But then your videos, even if they're embedded on your site, I guess you probably like uploaded them to YouTube and then embedded them on the site. So this could be also views on YouTube. So then the issue is, even if you have a link in your YouTube description, most of the impact that you get from videos is, I mean, if the video worked well and people, they're interested in your product, in your brand, you would see an increase in branded searches to your website, because you watch a video on social media, say, okay, this is interesting. You go and you Google it. You Google that product, and then you go to the website. So it's very difficult to attribute the success of a video, because you don't have that direct connection unless it's paid, and the platforms, they block that with organic videos.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to longitudinally follow it. So if I'm on the YouTube video and you have your link in the description and they click the link, now the platform has that data, but you don't. You're just getting a visitor on your website, and you can make a correlation. If I drop a video and I look at the channel and I say, okay, they had 1,000 views in this week, and I look at my website and it's tracking 400 to 500 visitors more than it did the week prior, I could reasonably make the presumption, now you don't make an assumption, but I can reasonably make that presumption, the video had something to do with that increase in visitors. But for me, I'm actually much more interested in what it drives as far as bottom line and revenue. So for me, I call them vanity numbers. Very important. Knowing the click through rates, knowing how many people are visiting your site are extremely important. I'm more interested in once they're on the site, where do they go? And do they end up buying in time eventually? Because usually they're not going to buy right away, especially in cybersecurity. It's usually a 9 to 12-month cycle. So if someone visits today, by the time they go down, they figure out the page and they go and they get their information and they call us, it's probably 3 months from now. So making that correlation in 3 months that person came on this content, I wish I had a way of doing that. We'd be very rich if we figured that out.
So, well, that's really challenging. So, I mean, we see that even with B2C brands, how difficult it is, like attribution, how difficult it is for them to know where people came from and ended up buying. But in your case, it's I mean, a million times more difficult because they were exposed to you. You're on their radar, and it takes them 3 months before they even book a call.
And with content marketing, and again, you know this, I'm not telling you everything you don't know. It's a matter of being in the right place at the right time. So someone is looking and they put in a search term and they go to your piece of content. Again, you don't know, you can't attribute that visit until, unless you're longitudinally following it, which most people can't. So if you talk to the customer, hey, what attracted you to us? They're not going to remember.
Yeah.
So it gets very, very challenging.
I can tell you one thing that we're doing that maybe you could apply here. I mean, part of the technology that we built is basically mapping your entire funnel in terms of topics. So let's say you were selling online therapy, okay, and you would say, okay, my bottom of the funnel is online therapy for women or online therapy for men. And there's like different in online therapy, it's very rich. You have different mental disorders, so you can map it by the persona or the disorder. But let's say it's just the narrow online therapy for men, and then from there you can go and let's say online therapy for depressed men, and from there you can go up the funnel. So what is depression? Why do men suffer from depression, etc.? And for every topic like that, you know which funnel stage it targets, and then you can estimate the value of that topic based on what funnel stage the person is in. Because if they're searching and if they're consuming content that's closer to the funnel, to the bottom of the funnel, they're much more likely to convert. And so if you got 1,000 people consuming a piece of content that's bottom of the funnel, it's pretty. You can be pretty sure. I'm saying pretty sure because we're in the voodoo space of things because of that gap that you have. But you can be pretty sure that these people are worth more to you than people that are just reading, consuming content that's top of the funnel, much further than.
Definitely love that. Yeah, because it's exactly what you're looking for. And to your point, again, I drive most people crazy whenever they're talking to me because I always say, great, but what's it driving? If it doesn't drive revenue for me, again, the old adage, 50% of marketing works. We just don't know which 50%. And it's, if you advertise, people are going to come and visit you if you don't versus if you don't advertise, but you just don't know what motivates them. So a good example, I rejected 7 or 8 different opportunities to join a podcast, but I said yes to you. The way you approached me on LinkedIn caught my attention, liked it, and I went with it. So what made that close.
Yeah, actually interesting, like maybe to compare with the rest of the ones that rejected.
That's a no. Yeah. So what I typically do is exactly that. Whenever I'm like, okay, this worked for this person, and after I start talking to the customer, and we get a little bit more detail, and you ask the right questions, you can get some answers. You can put together a profile of what made them say yes, and then you look at someone who didn't respond. And if they're willing to talk to you, and some are, most aren't, but if they're willing to talk to you, you find out, okay, that approach didn't work with that person because word usage, you're trying to be cheeky or funny, and it didn't resonate with them. Again, when you try to use humor, it can get dangerous because someone's not gonna like it. So
yeah. I often say that with the content we create. I mean, the only currency that we have, especially, I mean, as businesses, and especially B2B, it's basically being interesting, because you need to inform, you need to educate. Entertaining, it's not really our business. It's, or let's say,
Yeah.
it's very rare that if, I mean, somebody just sent me an example of a person creating B2B content. I forgot his name, is very successful. He's creating B2B content while chopping vegetables. So he's cutting salad, he's cutting fruit, and somehow it's interesting, but he's talented with that. But for most businesses,
Right.
to be interesting, informative, and entertaining at the same time, super challenging. So I say, focus on being interesting, focus on educating, informing. That's probably where your strength is, which is exactly what's happening now. I mean, I'm learning quite a lot just by speaking to you, because you have a lot of experience. You've been doing this for a while, so your personal and your day-to-day expertise is very interesting. Okay, so I know we don't have much time left, so maybe just like a final topic that we can end off with, because you're talking about measurement, which is very important for every marketer. But now, when paid channels are getting more and more competitive, acquisition costs are increasing. I see many companies, complaining about that. Companies are cutting down their marketing spend, laying off people. Then on the other hand, and I mean, besides that, there's also this issue with trust. AI, you need to create more trust. And then for me, what I've been starting to think about more and more from my company, and I'm wondering what your opinion on this is. I believe that companies need to start invest more and more in branding because of trust, because of the increase in acquisition costs. So you need to go to other channels, and because I see it for Intel, that when a prospect speaks to us, and when they've heard about us a few times from other customers, from our content, from our website, they tend to trust us much more than if it's like a cold outreach. So I do believe that businesses will have to start investing more and more in brand as well, brand building, but that's not measurable in most cases.
Not. I mean, it's hard to measure. I know Forrester did a study last year, where they were able to quantify that 63% of the value in a company is its brand. So that's significant, but it's like anything else. Once you have that connection, once you have that bond, and branding is just simply making a connection with your customer. Mm-hmm. Once you make that connection, then you got to do something pretty bad and egregious to get them to leave from you. But most people, once they affiliate with a particular brand, that's their brand. They are associated with it, and they want, and they maybe make excuses whenever they do something wrong. It's like a star. You watch any sporting event, fantastic players on both teams. One player you kind of like, another player you don't like. They're very similar, mm-hmm. but there's something about their personality or their brand that you don't like. And once you associate with that persona, that person, you're a fan for life. So a lot of the adage is you follow players, not teams. So if I'm a team, a fan of a team, but I'm really a fan of 3 or 4 players on the team and they get traded, mm-hmm. I'm no longer a fan of that team anymore. So that's all branding.
I can tell you, like, for example, with analytics. I mean, we have our own analytics, but when it comes to using it for many other products that I've built, I like Mixpanel, and it's like, for me, I really dislike Google Analytics. I think it's the way it works and looks is just terrible. But for me,
it's horrible. Yeah.
I mean, I don't even check any other products. For me, it's like, I know I like Mixpanel, and that's it. It's like you say, it's like you're a fan for life. And I get no royalties or anything, affiliate fees from it. I just like this product. So I do understand what you're saying, but do you think, I mean, even for yourself, do you think it makes sense to invest in branding when it's so difficult to?
Definitely. Yeah. You have to. Yeah. It's in my marketing approach, I do 3-prong approach in all my marketing. Awareness is first, then demand generation and sales enablement. Those 3 pillars in marketing, if you can hit the nail on the head, if you do awareness right, now you're giving your sales reps coverage because people have heard about your product. you can walk in. I can walk into your and say AT&T, and you'll know. Okay, phone. I can walk in and say Joe Bacicaloop. We do the same thing. We may have a better network, but you never heard of me.
Yeah.
And you're not. And the old again, especially B2B. The joke is no one's ever got fired, for choosing AT&T.
Yeah.
But you may get fired for choosing Joe Bacicaloop if there's a problem. You can have the exactly same problem. Then AT&T and Joe Bacicaloop can have the exact same problem, the exact same breach, everything. But you'll get fired because you chose Joe Bacicaloop to save a buck, and the guy who chose AT&T gets to stay.
Yeah.
It's all about brand.
Yeah. Okay, Armando, it's been very interesting. I know we're almost out of time. I know you have a hard stop soon, so I want to drag it to the very last minute. Thanks a lot for joining.
I had a great time.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I learned a lot. That's one of the most the things that I like the most about this podcast. I mean, speaking to marketing leaders, especially in cybersecurity, which is a very difficult space. So thanks a lot again. Hopefully we can meet again someday and do it again.
I will come back. Have me back anytime.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.